Today we're going to be talking about Regional Center and their requirements for their 6-month and exit reports. As we go through this, you are going to want to touch base with your supervisor to get more information on how she is going to like you to report this information to her. But what I wanted to roll out to you today is the underlying basic principles of what you're going to need to include in your reports. Of course, if you have questions at any time, please feel free to email me and Linda, and then I will also include your supervisor as we need to answer those questions for you. Many of you are already sending us reports that include an age equivalence using the developmental milestone check sheet, so thank you very much for including that in your reports. You've been doing a lovely job with that. A regional center wants us to use an assessment that is standardized, though, and that check sheet is not standardized. So over the next few months, I would say several weeks to a few months, we're going to start having everyone using the REAL, which is a standardized assessment. We do not want your therapist, your supervisors to be going out into the field and taking a session away from you in order to do this assessment. So your supervisor is going to be working with you on how she wants you to administer this. It might be that you answer the questions and she scores it. It might be that she calls you over the phone and asks you these questions and you guys do it together over the phone. You'll need to touch base with your supervisor to see exactly how she wants you to do that. If at any point you guys have questions, again, just let me and Linda know, and we'll be more than happy to help you through that. So I really want to give you the background, the basics for the REAL, because giving an assessment, of course, is outside your practice. So we do not expect you to know how to do this. But this particular assessment, in my opinion, is probably the easiest one that is going to meet the needs of Regional Center at this time. So I'm putting a blank copy in everyone's box. Some of you here at Mission Hills already have it. I will be giving the rest of it to North Hollywood tomorrow, and this is your copy to look at and to become really familiar with. We will be putting a copy of this up in Google Drive as well. When we give an assessment, it doesn't matter what assessment it is, we need to have an idea of about where that child is performing. So most of our assessments have a base, and they also have a ceiling. The base is how many questions in a row that child answered correctly. Or in this test, how many questions in a row would the parent say, yes, this child has this behavior or is able to do that. That's the baseline. Okay. On the other hand, we continue asking questions and figuring out how much skill does this child have until they get so many in a row wrong, or until on this test a parent will say, no, my child can't do that, or you will say, no, my patient can't do that in therapy. We haven't seen this behavior yet. So when you get this assessment, don't worry about the first page. This really is just for the therapist who is evaluating. It would be your supervisor. This is where we would write all of our data. If you were doing this over the phone with your therapist, of course, she's not going to be filling this out. I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a complete copy. If you have questions about what all of these boxes mean, feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to go over it with you. This page is set up, this test is set up in 6-month increments. So the test starts with skills that a 0 to 6-month-old would have expressively and receptively. Okay? It goes all the way back to 0, and then it goes all the way forward to 36 months, which is 3 years, and that's why we like to use it for our Regional Center people. I use this every time I give an assessment to that age group. Okay? So here's how you're going to use it. Your supervisor, if your supervisor decides to call you and ask you these questions over the phone, she's probably going to start somewhere right around wherever your student is chronologically. If your child that you are servicing is 22 months old, then she is probably going to start asking you questions over here on page 4 that have the 19 to 24-month-old questions, such as, does your toddler often repeat or imitate words heard in conversation? Yes or no? Okay. Does your toddler label or have names for all of his or her favorite toys, foods, pets, or other objects? Yes or no? Okay, so as the therapist, you should have kind of an idea. Does your patient label some of the favorite toys that they play with in therapy? Does your toddler readily repeat words from you or not? Okay, it's a yes or a no. If you want to say sometimes, you need to be prepared to clarify that a little bit for your supervisor. Okay. So what you'll do is you'll start right around wherever your child is developmentally, and you'll start answering the questions. You'll go backwards until they have, you'll go backwards until you have 5 yeses in a row. And you'll go forward in time. You'll go forward until you have 5 no questions. And then that way we can score it. We'll know that somewhere in that range is where that child's true age equivalence is. I know this is a lot of information, but I wanted to start laying down the dialogue on how to do this. I know you're going to have questions for me. Please feel free to email me at any time. So what you'll do is, for me, if you are under my license, when you have a report due, I want you to send me the report as you normally do, but I also want you to send me a completed copy of this. You can email it. You can take a picture with your cell phone and send it to me. That would probably be the best, since I'm not always in the Mission Hills office, or you might be based out of North Hollywood. Somehow find a way to attach those 2 things together and you'll send it to me. Okay? So when you do, you'll want to make sure that you've got 5 yeses in a row somewhere and 5 no's in a row. And that's how you know when to start and stop the test. Okay? If you are unsure about whether or not a child can do a particular skill set, that's where you ask the parent. Like, for example, if you are writing me an exit report, your child is 3, you're probably going to start at the end of the test and you're going to work your way back. Okay? Let's see, for example, can your patient follow 2 requests that are not related to each other? For example, please take off your jacket and then find that puppy. Okay, those 2 things are very random, and you might not know that. You might not present that in your therapy session. That's where you're going to ask the parent, is your child able to follow directions that aren't familiar, that he or she doesn't hear every day? Those kinds of things. So you're going to want to ask your families these questions. And this also might be a good way for you to get more therapy ideas and have an idea developmentally about what these children should and shouldn't be doing as far as language goes.